In this video, we're going to improve your backside and frontside 180s. Starting with this backside one. I see that you're doing all the underlining principles and you've been doing your research. You're just applying them in not quite the correct way, making this trick a lot harder than it needs to be. The first thing you want to change is your approach. Right now, as you're approaching the jump, you're doing a very short heel edge turn into a very quick toe edge. This is making you hold that toe edge for a very long duration of time. It'll make you continue to close off and break at the waist, making you go and leave in this blind position. What you want to be doing is coming in on a more aggressive heel edge, letting you go and open your hips towards the jump. Opening your hips towards the jump will let you go and keep your eyes and chest facing forward for longer, letting you go and stay in controlled. And this is really important because it lets you do two things. First, it lets you leave with your upper body in a neutral position instead of being rounded and closed off. And the second thing it does is it lets you keep your spot forward towards the knuckle. And that's really important because you want to be having your eyes locked on the knuckle through the full duration of the spin, because that's what tells you where you are for a back one. So because right now you're letting your upper body close off a little bit early, it's making it so you have to go and spot, but take off instead. So as you go and traverse across the slope, you actually don't see where you're landing, and your upper body is getting leaned forward because you're going and having that spot point too far behind you. So all you need to do to make this back one way easier is a bigger heel edge approach, letting you go and hold your toe edge less long, opening your hips and upper body a little bit more, so that way when you go and snap your rotation, instead of going and snapping off in this 90 position, you'll be snapping off in a more neutral position, allowing you to keep your spot more forward towards the knuckle. And that will let you see where you are and control it using these blind landing and counter rotation principles a lot more effectively. We'll play this in full motion with that in mind, and then we'll move on to the front one. Popping off, getting more control. And yeah, those small changes should be all you need to make, and they should be really an awesome game changer for you. I'm excited for you to implement those. Now we got some frontside 180s, and your frontside 180s are the same thing, where you're doing the underlining principles correct, but there's some slight funk that's throwing them off. So we'll use this one because this one makes the most sense to me to coach off of. So what's happening right now is you're coming into the takeoff, you're popping your front one, and honestly, it's really close to being on the money. There's just some slight mistakes you need to change in order to start stomping this. So the first thing you need to change is you're way over snapping this front one. See how you're going and having your upper body rotate, your legs come back? This is just because you're trying to hyper exaggerate this motion, and it's making the trick harder than it needs to be. It's also making it so you get a little bit snagged and bucked off the takeoff. And this is where this improper axis of rotation is coming in, and you're landing or tail heavy. Front ones are such a small trick, you can't actually rely on your rotation to go and try correct your axis, and that's what makes these so hard. So you need to go and instead of taking off so much over top of your back foot, you need to have this shifted to a more neutral position, because if you're shifted off a back foot, as you rotate a 180, it shifts you all the way to your other back foot. So how do we do this? The biggest thing that's going to help you is, again, delay that setup carve. You're getting on your heel edge too early, and that's going to be harder to hold. You're doing a good delay on your snap and timing, but the problem is you're over snapping and you're snapping too early. See how right here your upper body is in a fully extended position, but your board's still on the takeoff? This is making it so as you leave off the lip of a jump, you actually don't have your upper body generating any rotation for you. Instead, it's holding this counter-rotated position, and that's why immediately after the takeoff, you need to use counter-rotation to bring yourself back aligned. By that, I mean your upper body is rotated here, and then to get the rotation around, you have it rotate in the other direction. This is telling us that your rotation is completely counter-rotation based instead of rotation based. What only works if your upper body is set forward, so that way you can counter rotate your toes into the landing. Because if you're counter rotating, you're not adjusting your axis of rotation. So for this, delay your snap a little bit. A delayed snap will let you carry that rotational momentum, making this trick easier. And make sure that you're staying a little more centered over your board. I'd recommend maybe doing some hard way front ones to get used to that feeling. But hard way front one keeps your chest more over your toes, making it so you get this more consistent axis rotation through. Because if you set your rotation all the way back over your tail, over your heels like this, it's going to make it so you land heel heavy and tail heavy every time. So we want to try shift this whole upper body motion to be being more squared, more set, and more stacked over your front toes. And a hard way front one is one of the best ways to really get the idea of this motion locked in. Hard way front ones are easier in general. We just don't do them because they don't help build up to the front three as easily. So make those changes, let me know how it goes, and let me know if you need any more feedback.